Welcome to the 4 Habits podcast, where we help you build relationships that thrive at home, at work, and in life. We're Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, and every week we bring you actionable insights to create meaningful connections and lasting success. So let's dive in.
In a world that is busy, that's noisy, that's done through digital media, how do we connect more authentically with ourselves, with others, and build secure relationships? That's the conversation we're going to be having today, and we're delighted to welcome Tzara Attwater onto the call all the way from sunny Australia. Welcome, Tzara.
Hello, Andrea and Jon. It's beautiful to be here with you both, and for your listeners, it's a wonderful experience. I always say about sharing our heartbeats, because our heartbeats are the greatest currency we have, right? So we can't get them back, and so what we're choosing to spend them on, let's choose wisely. And it's beautiful to be here.
Gosh, already I'm inspired. So we're really looking forward to the conversation. Before we jump in, though, we need to give you a proper introduction, Tzara. So Jon's going to share a bit on the bio.
The bit I love doing. All right, so here we go. So Tzara Attwater is a dynamic speaker, researcher, and relationship development coach who empowers high-achieving individuals to transform the way they connect with themselves and others. Known for her courageous personal journey, leaving behind a conventional life and a decade-long unhealthy relationship to explore Australia in a motorhome. Tzara brings a rare blend of authenticity, resilience, and deep psychological insight. So specializing in self-leadership and attachment theory, especially anxious attachment, Tzara helps people break free from patterns of insecurity and build confident, meaningful, and secure relationships. Through her first Love Yourself FLY, that's Fly pathway, and practical emotional rewiring tools, she inspires audiences to create lives rooted in self-worth, healthy boundaries, and emotional freedom. Her work reflects the adventurous spirit that led her to chase solar eclipses around the world and now fuels her mission to ignite transformation in personal and professional relationships. We already started enjoying this conversation before we started recording. There's so much that we want to just bring out here. But Tzara, you spoke about a line you used at the beginning before we got going. With you said, helping people get authentic with themselves so that love has something to land on. I would just love that expression there.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about the work that you're doing and this whole concept of overcoming self-doubt and emotional quicksand, I think is how you put it as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So love that. So where shall I start? I guess that, the healthiest relationships that I'm all about helping and empowering people, they don't start, they start with fixing yourself. They start with accepting who you are first. And so I say that the best advice that I can ever give people is that the right person won't make you feel wrong, right? So I always tell that you don't have to be perfect to earn the love, because real enough love has something to real land on, right? Being real is where real love has something to land on. So that's what we were talking about before the break, before we started. It's just about being authentic, being real, being able to be visible so that, you're attracting the right love for you.
Yeah. And what are the things that you have been seeing that prevent people from being real or cause them to have the insecurities about love?
Yeah, great question. And I think, I mean, a lot of the clients that I speak with, especially in this, having this anxious attachment style, are you familiar with what I mean by that?
Yeah,
So
but explain it a little bit to bring the audience along with us.
Sure. Okay. So just the abridged version, right, is back in the 1970s, Mary Ainsworth, she's a psychiatrist, was doing a study, and she called it the strange situation study. And so what she did was created a room where caregivers, mothers, were bringing their toddlers into this room that had some toys in there. The mother would stay in the room with the child, so that the child was able to play. And once the child was playing, the mother left the room. And the study was about how the child reacted to that separation.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, right? And so it was how the child reacted when the mother came back. And the anxious child became very clingy, needed the mother's attention, needed to be able to feel comforted by the mother. The avoidant child was actually having the same neurology going on inside, the same emotional dysregulation, but was looking like nothing was happening, was looking like, I don't need you, I don't need you to, I'm coping, but inside they were not coping. And then you have the secure child, which came back, got the reassurance, and within very, very, very quickly was able to go back to playing because there was a trust being built up.
Mm-hmm.
Secure child knows that sometimes the parent needs to be go away, not be there for them, but they are secure enough in and of themselves to trust that the parent's going to come back and be consistent. With an anxious child, there was an inconsistency with that. And so the child learns that they have to earn that love. Sometimes the parent's there for them, sometimes they're not. And that's not to attribute any kind of blame here, because you've got single parent households that may be holding down a couple of jobs. There could be all sorts of reasons why there is an inconsistency there. Well, if we fast track to the adult, that anxious child starts to feel like they become hypervigilant to any changes in their environment, and they start to feel like they need to earn love. So they're people pleasing. They're going out of the way to do things that aren't necessarily in their own best interest because of a fear of being rejected or abandoned. And so this can play out not just in romantic relationships, but in relationships at work. It's where we have this imposter syndrome happening, this self-doubt, this continually feeling like I'm not good enough in some way. I've got to earn the love and care from somebody. And obviously there are levels and levels of that love.
Yeah.
So I forgot.
So is that what you're seeing? So is that what you're seeing a lot of, that
right?
Fuel the self-doubt and the lack of confidence?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was that the anxiously attached person will be, as a gross generalization, will have this idealized relationship in their mind, this utopian kind of, like Disney taught us, the prince and the princess, they're going to fall in love. And so there's this idea that the thunderbolt and lightning, right? That people that talk about, there was the thunderbolt, the lightning strike. I knew instantly the moment, and it's that real seductiveness that feels like magic. But in reality, it's often not magic. It's a memory that's triggering the nervous system to recognize something that was familiar. And that's that sudden rush. Mum's come to give me love again. They're back. They love me. They care about me. So there's this constant oscillation between feeling abandoned and wanting to prove that you can get that love back. So that thunderbolt kind of analogy is not necessarily something that's healthy. And so it's actually, what's happening is it's if you've got an attachment history that includes that anxiety or that inconsistency or that emotional drama, your brain's going to light up when it senses that same pattern happening. But unfortunately, in order to break that pattern, it's actually the secure, the almost boring, the way that your nervous system is not going to get triggered, that's the healthy, secure relationship for you, because there's consistency, there's safety. That type of person is going to be sending the message that I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I've got you. It might not be fireworks, but it's going to be like, like a steady, warm fireplace that you can get round and get cozy with and light your way for the rest of your life, not just like a firework that's going to go off and be this big, massive thing and then all over all of a sudden, right?
Well, I'm intrigued now. So we started by saying you had these three, whether you categorize them as three childhood experiences from the research done by Anne. Somebody was it? I forget.
Mary Ainsworth. Mary Ainsworth.
Ainsworth.
I can't remember the other person that furthered the study, and they came up with a fourth one, which is
Attachment theory.
yeah. He came up with a
remember,
fourth, anxious and avoidant combined as a fourth one. But in general terms, the three are anxious, avoidant, and secure.
Well, exactly. And recognizing that we all have some aspects of childhood trauma. There's another episode that we did where we had a fascinating masterclass, I guess, on childhood trauma, and recognizing that actually most of us have, through, it's just the way life is, through not through particular ill intent or what have you.
Events,
major events. It's just things that happen. If you got working parents, etc. There's some things that happen that it might end up leaving us feeling in the avoidant or anxious category. Stress comes from being not there. Does it come down to just finding the right person, the right partner, or are there things that we can be doing as an individual ourselves to make
I love this question, because I think this comes up a lot, right? Because I think there is my opinion, but I think there's a big myth that you have to be fully healed or perfect before you deserve that good relationship, right? The reality is that the growth really happens inside the relationship, not just before them, right? And we spoke a little bit about that, right, before we start recording. I feel like we're going to create FOMO about all the stuff we talked about before the time.
It was good.
But it's true, right? This healthy love, the love that takes time to develop, takes time to kind of iron out the rough edges. That's what's going to accelerate the healing. It's not the trophy that you get from completing yourself at the end, right? It's about being able to hold up the mirror to yourself and not be afraid to see that in the other person,
that's my mind is firing off in so many different directions, because this kind of secure, real, imperfect person finding real love with each other is the complete opposite to what we're setting up the next generation for. We were talking earlier about the dating apps, and I saw a research or a comment that 80% of the people are looking for the 20% of perfection. They're looking for the men who are tall and handsome and earning top dollar, and that's not most of the people. So the apps are setting us up to look for the perfection, to look for the thunderbolt, to present ourselves as the amazing perfection online, and creating.
It ain't sustainable, because that's not how you're going to turn out.
So the challenge then is, how do you create these authentic connections? How do you give yourself permission to be real? How do you actually engage beyond the pretty pictures on the app and become sustained? Big question.
I think it's a massive question, because I think the times are changing, right? I mean, we're in a digital age now, and there is a massive comparison that goes on, the hashtag Instagram lifestyle, and the kind of what we present in that digital world. We can be anything we want to be. And so I think there is a real disconnect between the representation of ourselves, what's actually happening inside, and that disconnect is what's causing a lot of mental health issues. For the comparison. And I really, really feel for the younger generation coming through now, because there's so much pressure on them. I mean, you and I would have grown up, we had magazines, and, I know as a little girl, I wanted to be the prettiest kid on the block, and I wanted to have the latest clothes, but we didn't have the social media bombarding us every single day. We had magazines, and we had the kids in the playground, right? But this is a different level of comparison that's going on. And so I think it's far easy for us, having come through that stage, right? We're not growing up with that social media in the same way this generation is. I think it's really easy to say you've got to just accept yourself and love yourself, but it's much harder to do when you're being faced with the bullying and the stuff that goes on in social media. It's really sad. So yeah, and not meaning to bring your people down here, but I think it does come back to what we were saying earlier about not trying to be perfect to earn love, right?
Mm.
Just to be able to be real. So it boils down, the question is, what does it mean to be real to you?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? And hold on to that with, like, your life depends on it. And as you evolve, as you start to develop in yourself, that's going to naturally change. But as long as you're being true to yourself about what you want, because that level of real, that level of authenticity is going to beat perfection every single time. And it starts with a radical acceptance of ourselves, so that we can stop that criticism, that self-judgment that we're somehow not good enough, that we have to be better or try harder. And I think it's just an exhausting emotional roller coaster. But, potentially one that we have to go through in order to experience and realize that this is no good. It's all very well saying, get off that emotional roller coaster, and,
Well,
yeah.
as you said, it's an easy one to say. My question would be, how do you do that in practical terms when everything out there looks so good? The competition looks good. The standards are high. The images are all beautiful around you, as you say, the Instagram generation. How do you do that? Now, I just want to give an example because we were in Miami, must be a couple of years ago now, and we happened to be down in the fashion district.
Okay.
Fashion district or design district or something like that.
Yeah.
But everything was just beautiful around us. The people
Right.
turned out beautifully. They were beautifully dressed. They were in fancy. Everything just looked great. And I
Right.
thought, where is all this coming from? How come this place is so special? And a friend of ours who actually lives there, he said, don't believe it for a minute. This is
Right.
just a show. They
Yeah.
will rent the cars. They will rent the clothes. They will turn up for the day or for the weekend and look fabulous, take all the pictures, and then they go back to reality. And this ain't reality. Don't believe it for a minute. But
Yeah.
that's what everybody is showing. So
Yeah.
how do you show up in a world that has that and say, actually, no, I don't have that? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you be real in a
Yeah.
world that's so fake?
Like,
Yeah.
such a good question. I mean, what I was coming up for me as you were describing that is how I would feel in the face of that. And is the feeling I'm getting is that I'm in lack, that there is
Yeah.
something
I'm not
missing.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not enough because I need to have that. And then what's missing in my life that makes me think that. So it's, how is this making me feel? And it comes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier with, anybody that's making you feel less than isn't worthy of your love, right? In a relationship,
Mm.
if someone's making you feel not good enough in some way, they're putting you down, or, I'd be advising my clients, take a good, strong look at why you're staying in that relationship. What are you listening to? And I guess that is somehow similar to what you experienced with all the fancy, beautiful stuff. I mean, it is gorgeous. I mean, I'm fully like to go into a nice hotel every now and then and pamper myself. And but it's real. I can see that this isn't some show for me if I'm going
Yeah.
into a
Yeah.
hotel. But if your friend's telling you this is just for show, and you scratch beneath the surface and it's not as pretty as what it's making out, there's something amiss. And so I think it's a great conversation that needs to be brought to the table for the younger generation that are coming through that. But sadly, I'm not sure what the answer is. I think, being true to yourself is something that you have to develop over time, because then you're going to know what is true. Being in a healthy relationship that makes you feel empowered is a way of being able to work through that, becoming secure in and of yourself, not settling for less than what you think you deserve. Like we're saying, if someone's making you feel uncomfortable in any way, that's a red flag.
Well, I think
I was going to just
go on.
quickly jump on that. If anything's making you feel uncomfortable or less than, I think could be like the title of any conversation around social media or Instagram. Because
Sure.
if we just encourage our young people to pause and think about, you're feeling so pressured by these people that you don't know, have no place or contribution to your life, yet their influence is outside.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
is that? And really thinking about what's real here? What are the real relationships? And why are people who you don't know having such a strong influence on who you are, what you buy, what you wear, and how you feel about yourself? That's a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, 100%. And it's it's our idealized self, right? Like that concept in the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, that we have this self-projected idea of ourselves that isn't really what's happening in reality. So what's real is our beliefs, our projection onto reality. I might go off a little bit on a tangent here, but I like to kind of give people an analogy. If I'm here in Brisbane, and now the main city is Sydney, which I spend a lot of time in. Which city are you in currently?
Just outside London is what the audience would recognize. We're in Hertfordshire, but just outside London.
Okay, so you're in London. Okay, so let's say you've grown up in London and your map of reality is London, and you know where all the best coffee shops are and all the nice little cafes and all your little quirks, and you're navigating around London like a professional. You know your map. But all of a sudden, you get transferred to Manchester. Okay, or some other big town, right? And you're using your map of London, right? And let's just say Manchester is the new relationship, or the new job, or whatever the kind of thing is that you're needing to now navigate, which is new to you. And you're trying to navigate it with your map of London in this metaphor, right? There's going to be some buildings, they're going to look the same. The streets are kind of looking the same. Maybe the taxis are going to look the same. But at some point, things are going to get a little bit out of kilter. You're going to get frustrated. Things aren't really correct. The street names are starting to get confusing. And what's happening here, what I'm trying to illustrate, is by holding on to your map in the face of reality is creating suffering for you, not for reality. Reality is going to continue on, right? And so it's about accepting reality for what it is. And that's not to deny or ignore your experiences in your map, but to see that your map isn't serving you in this place. And so I think in the digital world, if we can use that analogy, that we have to let go of things that we're holding on to that aren't necessarily serving us. I don't know if that is a roundabout way of...
No, I hear you. It's holding on to a map that isn't adjusted for the reality that you're living in.
I use this very loose. I say this with full compassion. I don't say this to shock anybody, but the 10-year relationship that I was in ended with a betrayal. I walked in on him in bed with my best friend, and so it was a shocking visual. And I took a long time to heal. And in my mind, I had done nothing wrong, and they were the bad person. But what I missed was how I spoke to myself afterwards. It was, I was stupid enough to believe them. What's wrong with me? I'm not lovable. And that was the real damage that was caused, not the damage of the betrayal. And so, the reason I'm explaining that is because there are things that are going to go wrong. There are traumas that happen. There are things that, other people may do to you, but holding on to that suffering, no one had a gun to my head telling me to hold on to it. It was about being able to let go and move on, creates acceptance. And I think that type of radical acceptance is how we get real with ourselves. I don't know if that's a kind of around the world, but
it's a powerful story to share of how you move on and realize it wasn't you, and you still have a life to go on to live despite the choices they made in betraying you.
Yeah, the damage wasn't necessarily the betrayal itself, although that took some healing to go through because I was in such shock from it. But it was how I decided, right, I'm building a wall around my heart, or, I can't trust myself to choose a partner, or I can't trust this because I made a mistake before. So I made that single event all encompassing. And I was doing that, right? No one was telling me to do that. And so being able to accept that was the map I was holding on to, right? you mean I could say a gross generalization, all men are terrible, or all, you know, all this, that, and the other. I could make this gross generalization, and it's not serving me, because that was the map of then. I'm a different person now. I can handle things in a different way. I can trust in myself to make the correct decisions because of the work that we're doing, because of that, bringing a sense of authenticity to what I will and I won't put up with, having those boundaries. And just to sort of bring it back round to this anxious, attached person, because that's who I was. This fear of rejection is actually what I ended up manifesting, this fear of being abandoned. Right. And it's developing a behavior that's going to avoid being abandoned or avoid being, you know, cheated on. And that's exactly what happened, because I was perpetuating it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Hello.
I'm sorry, doggy. Sorry. No, what did you say? I missed that. Sorry.
So that's exactly where I was going with the question there, because I think a lot of people in relationships might live in that fear of, this might happen to me someday. I may end up in that situation, as you say, walking in,
right,
in a very heart wrenching, or to see something that could be heart wrenching. What could you have done? Hindsight can be 20/20 sometimes, but what could you have done? How could you have approached it differently, do you think? And not just you, but as a couple, as a relationship, to avoid that kind of end result. Is there anything that you, hindsight, might have done differently? Don't know.
I think I'm not the person that I was back then, but back then I was, you know, we're talking over 10 years ago now. I was running an anxious attachment style, which shows up as being, you know, sending a plethora of text messages, or, you know, needing that constant reassurance, needing to be, because I'm constantly looking for love. I'm constantly fearing that it's going to be taken away from me. And that's exhausting for somebody to be in a relationship with. And so I take on responsibility of my part in that. That's not to say that, you know, it's okay what they did. I don't think it's okay. But I can also take ownership for what was mine. I can do that now. I could not do that or see that then. I was too much in a kind of victim mentality of being, you know, and there's a lot of truth. I was the victim in this situation. It was, you know, two people had gone and selfishly had done what they wanted to do, and my heart got broken. So, you know, that's one story. Another story is that I ignored all the red flags. Another story is that I was holding on to a reality from a past childhood wounding, and not having done the work on myself perpetuated this cycle as a pattern, a repeated pattern. So, you know, if we kind of encompass everything that I'm just trying to talk about here, is how important it is to do the work on self, to first love yourself too, which is why, you know, my program, First Love Yourself, is the culmination of all my work, because that's where it starts. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, you doing the work on yourself no wrong can come of that, because if your relationship ends, you've already done the work on yourself. You can walk away and find someone else quickly and healthily. If you're not doing the work, it's going to create more suffering for yourself in the long run. And it took me a good couple of years of tears and healing that needed to occur to get over that relationship.
Yeah. Wow. Love that idea of first love yourself, mainly because in our experience, whenever people have challenges in relationships, it's always the other person's fault. It's never me. It's always you bad person.
Yes.
You did things to me, and actually don't take responsibility. We're not excusing by any stretch the other person's behavior, but actually there are things that we might be doing that aren't landing so well, that might be causing them to behave a certain way, etc. So again, not excusing their behavior, but everybody has to take responsibility for how they react and respond. But what are some of the things that we could be doing differently? So I love that idea of first loving yourself. But you've written a couple of books, haven't you? Around, I think one is 52 creative date ideas, and the other one 52 ways to meet someone in real life. Tell us a bit about those.
Yes. So I used to have this thing with my ex that we'd create a date idea, right? And life gets in the way. When you're in a long-term relationship, the kids can get in the way, and life can take you away. And so we decided we would create one day, and I would say, right, you're booked. We're going to do a date on this date, and you're not allowed to organize anything else on that date. You just got to come with me. And so we take it in turns, and it created this kind of healthy competition that we try and outdo each other with a great date each time we do something. But it was fantastic because it actually brought some of the magic back into our relationship. We let go of any other obligations, and we really made time for each other. And that got me thinking about when you're starting a new relationship, or when you've been in a relationship for a while, that it can get a little bit monotonous, that you do want to spice things up. And I'm not just talking saucy spice things up, but, to kind of do something a little bit different, take yourself out of your comfort zone, because our leading edge, we are wired as human beings. We're wired to develop. We're wired to self-actualize. And so when things become too monotonous, we stagnate. And so that was the motivation behind the 52 creative date ideas. That's one for every week of the year. So you've got 52 for the year. And as like an added bonus, my journey around Australia in my motorhome, which we haven't even touched on, that's a whole nother story. But I traveled around Australia 2.5 years by myself, taking photos, falling into holes, having adventures, doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Avoiding the snakes and the spiders and all that kind of stuff as well,
all
right?
the spiders, all the dangerous stuff. You're not top of the food chain when you're out there in the wild. And so I took all the photos, and the photos that I've put in this book are of all of the photos that I've taken around my trip around Australia. So that's the 52 creative ideas. And then there's also one called 52 Ways to Meet Someone in Real Life, because, we touched on this a little bit about how the dating apps, and the digital space, I really feel personally that they have gamified the whole way in which we're relating to each other. It's in the app's interest for you to go back on the date, back on the app and swiping, and I think it's just another way in which we are belittling ourselves, the ghosting that goes on, the feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, and what can I do to be more attractive, to attract that kind of person, as if there's something wrong with us. So I think this whole commodification of relationships in these dating apps, I don't think is healthy, but I also recognize it's the way people are actually relating and being able to have the opportunity to catch a lot more people. So to attract.
I thought that was an interesting word. It's about catching.
So the book that I've done in real life is about 52 ways to meet someone in real life, off the apps, actually get real, and put yourself in some discomfort. One of the things that the digital age is giving us, in AI, is allowing us to avoid feeling uncomfortable. We get onto DoorDash or Uber, and we just order things because it's convenient, and the digital world is allowing us to stay in our comfort zones and not step out of that. And I think that can be risky. I think that we our wrinkles, our nuts and our bolts inside, they give us character, they make us more human, and it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I think we're losing that with this digitalization of stuff.
So what would be a couple of examples from that the 52, but a couple of ideas out there? What are one or two up there that are like, that's a really great thing to do?
So if you've been in the relationship for a while, painting, getting a little easel and some crayons or some paints and something, and paint each other. You can spice it up.
Interesting.
Okay.
So you can spice it up by getting. You can wear a limited amount of clothes if you wanted to, depending how long you've been in the relationship, or if it's a relatively new relationship, take it in turns to just show each other. Draw each other. And I'm not talking about a great work of art. but it's a way of being able to be seen. And I think that so often we're not being seen. And it's not to sort of pass judgment on your creative or artistic talent, but just be able to just allow someone to see you in the way that they see you. I think this is just a beautiful one of the dates.
That's it. You're on. We'll be painting each other. That's not my strength. But what about the other one? The 52
ways to meet them in real life.
So they're about so the idea behind them is that they're cheap and cheerful. That's not going to break the bank. It's not about going off onto an expensive restaurant. One of them that is going to push the wallet out a little bit is going up in a hot air balloon.
Ooh.
So taking a hot air balloon up, some just things that you might not normally do. And then another one is to go into an area that you've never been before and just walk around the area and give each other some little teasing points on, you've got the first person to find the cafe, or the first person to go into, so just to have a look around the different gardens. Another one, which could be a little bit risque, is to go into your local op shop. You've got $10 or £10, whatever it is that you would have over there, just a small amount of money, and you have to buy clothes for each other. So Andrea, you'd have to buy clothes for John. John would have to buy clothes from you, only from the op shop, and then you have to wear those clothes to go and have a coffee together, just for some fun and giggles.
Just translate for us. What's op shop?
Like a charity shop. So
Gotcha.
A charity shop. I can't remember the names of
charity in the US they call it not Vinted, but
they have Goodwill shops.
Goodwill, I think
shops, the Goodwill shops. Over here in Australia, they call them the St. Vinny's shops, so the charity shops, the Salvos, the Salvation Armies.
On the same page now. Got it.
Got that.
So the idea is
those are still dating ideas. I'm really curious to know, how do you meet people in real life, or are you suggesting that's one of the ways to do it?
So the ideas behind the ones that you're meeting in real life is to actually just immerse yourself in something that you wouldn't normally do, to get you out of your comfort zone. And so joining meetup groups, going out and exploring, going to book clubs, going to museums.
Fine, you've given us a direction. It's getting out of your comfort zone, getting off the sofa and off the app, and making yourself join clubs and real life events to get to connect with people. No, that's brilliant.
And if it's feeling uncomfortable, and I'm not talking like fear magnitude, but if it's feeling a little bit uncomfortable, it's a good thing. That means that you're on the edge of your development. That means that you're about to learn something, and no harm can really come of that, I think.
That's a really powerful point, because as you were saying it, we're used to Uber, we're used to Amazon, we're used to Deliveroo, we now have dating apps. We don't have to push ourselves outside the comfort zone. And so you end up with this dichotomy, for want of a better word, where people are wanting to connect, feeling isolated, but not having the confidence or the courage to actually go out where real people live. Yeah. Wow.
So we have these nights in the bars and the pubs here where you can do like a quiz night, and so you can go in and anyone can just join in, and that's the kind of things, just to get involved, to go off. Maybe it's a backgammon thing, or a chess tournament, just to go in and try and play and get back to that childlike curiosity that we all had, and get out of your comfort zone and try things. I think there's some real magic that can occur.
So you've shared some really powerful points. I love the one about don't judge yourself and force yourself to try to be a perfect person. We're all human. We're all imperfect. So accept your imperfections, always be on this growth journey, but leave space for other people to be imperfect too. Don't just choose people based on all the top criteria, because that's not real life. And, push ourselves out the comfort zone. Is there anything else that we've not touched on yet that you really wanted to share with the audience before we finish?
I think just to sum up really what you've said, which is to don't wait for the perfect moment or for the perfect person. The real magic happens when you show up for yourself, for your whole self. Right now, exactly as you are perfect exactly as you are. You're not broken, you don't need fixing. You just have a way of thinking because of a map that you're holding on to, right? So don't wait for the perfect moment. Step into that childlike curiosity and just go and enjoy it. Enjoy life.
Amazing. Did you have anything that you were going to say? Okay.
It's kind of tick the box. I was going to ask about best relationship advice to give people and so on, but that kind of ticks it.
So I think just to sort of close, obviously the ebooks that I'm sharing with you, and love for your people to enjoy that. If you want to, we touched on a little bit about the anxious and attachment style. If you're not sure what your attachment style is, I've got a really fun little quiz that you can find on my website, which is My Confidence Coach, all one word, .com.au. So My Confidence Coach. And on the website, you'll find it there. It's a free little link just to have a little bit of fun to find out what your attachment style is. And obviously the books that you'll put in the comments, I'm sure.
Amazing. Well, we're certainly going to be opening that 52 creative ideas one. Big date ideas. Maybe we'll take turns in who does the next one.
The drawing. Oh, well, I want to see those drawings. You please share them with me. I'd love to see those.
Having the suggestions takes the pressure off having to think, oh, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And so on.
Yes, exactly.
No.
And, it's a way of supporting each other. It's not where one person, like, I don't know, let's say one of you can ice skate and the other can't. It's not where one of you is going to excel. It's where you both can't ice skate. It's where you're both going to support each other and get out of your comfort zone both together. That's what that's about.
Oh, love that. Yeah. We're on, and we'll let you know how we get on with that.
Beautiful.
It's been such a wonderful conversation, as we knew it would be. Some really good insights. And I want to end with you. You said something right at the very beginning that captured my attention, and I wrote it down. Our heartbeats are our greatest currency. Be careful what you spend them on.
Yes.
And, I wanted us to just end right where we started, because it's, these are the only heartbeats that we'll ever have. So use them wisely. Right.
Use them wisely, choose them wisely. So from my heart to yours, thank you for spending your heartbeats with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Beautifully
and for
said.
you doing likewise.
Right back at you. Right back at you. No, it's wonderful. So from us, it's a wrap. We look forward to the next conversation, but thank you for being with us, Tzara.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to the 4 Habits podcast. Now, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget, take our free relationship skills quiz at the4habits.com/skills quiz to start improving your relationships today. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.